Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babble podcast. As always, I'm Julian Mush. I'm joined by Daniel D'Souza and Jeremy Cozier.
Hello.
And we got the whole crew back together. It's great. Dan, good to have you back.
Yeah,
good to have you back.
It's been a minute.
It's been a couple episodes, and I'm excited to kind of dive into the latest in film and television. So if you're new to the show, that's where we're going to be talking about the latest in film and television. But in a similar vein to the last episode that I did with Jeremy, which was actually just a ToB interlude kind of bonus episode. We're gonna keep things casual here because Dan's back from Alberta, and we don't want to overload him with too much stuff. So we're just gonna keep it nice and casual. Just ease him in.
It's all my fault.
Yeah, actually, and hold on, Dan. Can you start the movie that we have on behind us? So we're doing this live. We always record this live on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Twitter, and you can tune in live, and to do that, make sure to follow us on Twitter at TowerBabblecast, Facebook.com/TowerBabblecast. Click all the links and subscribes and all that kind of stuff so you get the notifications when you go live. And you can hop in the chat, send us messages, and interact with us live on the show. Because we don't have a really strict recording schedule quite yet, it's going to be a little ad hoc. But again, just best case is just follow us on one of the social media platforms, and you'll be able to keep up with when we're going live. And anyway, so that's kind of the show. We're going to keep it casual. It's going to be kind of loosey-goosey, but it's going to be fun. I think that I've got a couple things in mind that I want to touch on. Marvel's back in theaters, and Black Widow's out, and Dan and I have seen it, so we'll touch on that. Jeremy, I believe you've seen Long Halloween, so maybe we'll touch on that, the newest DC animated film, and just whatever comes to mind. So. And again, if you are watching live, if you have topics or suggestions for things you want us to cover, feel free to throw them in the chat, and we'll be happy to touch on them. The Patreon. We should mention the Patreon. If you want to help support the show, you can do so by going over to patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. We do a monthly film club. Jeremy, since it's your pick this month, do you want to tell the folks at home what they have in store for them for the month of July?
Sure. Well, we'll be watching Driven, which is a Sylvester Stallone movie. I guess you guys have never seen it or even heard of it.
Yeah. Or even heard. No, I've never heard
How
of it.
How did you know?
But no, yeah, like I don't know. I just remember really enjoying this movie. It's kind of a look into the F1 racing world. So there was also a GameCube movie game that I played at the same time. So that really got me into it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
so there's a 2018 film, but I don't think that's the movie we're looking for, right? This is a movie from early 2000, 2001, turn of the millennium film.
You're all about the car movies, eh?
Well, because we've been doing them, I figured we just this kind of be the last one.
Okay.
Just throw that in there.
All right. And Dan, I don't know if you know this. Because my pick is next. You weren't on the last film club, which was your pick actually. So maybe what we'll do is the first thing we'll touch on is for those who watched that film club or listened to it and didn't get your take. Quick 3-second, maybe longer than 3 seconds. Save that
for the end of the episode.
Okay, right? All right, fair enough. And to touch on what was your movie again, Dan?
Running Scared.
Running Scared. So, and then my movie for next month is going to be Face Off, which I've never seen, and with probably bring on Rachel, who's our co-host from Small Screen Star Wars. She's going to come on and join us for that one, so that'll be fun. So anyway, that's patreon.com/TowerBabblecast. Help support the show, keep the lights on, and get some bonus content for your trouble. Okay, let's get into this. I guess the first place I want to go, I guess top of mind is Black Widow, just because it is, it's so topical. Came out last weekend. Quick kind of background onto what's going on here in Manitoba. Theaters weren't open when it first premiered, and so we didn't have the chance to go see it in theaters, but it is available on Disney Plus Premier Access. And Dan was kind enough to cover the bill for that, which is funny because you used to always be on Daniel's bill, which is always Jeremy will remember.
$35 well spent.
Yeah, and hey,
it's just good. It's a decent movie. I don't regret the purchase.
Yeah. We can debate whether or not it's worth $35.
Sure,
but that's a different argument. So let's. We'll pause here. I know, Jeremy, you haven't seen it. So we're not gonna necessarily spoil anything, but we'll touch on kind of our overall thoughts and impressions. Dan, you watched it first. Why don't you tell us your impressions first?
Yeah, no, I really did enjoy it. They get the family dynamic very right for this weird sort of non-family family.
Also, by the way, there's a family dynamic in the movie, which you might not have known from having seen the trailers.
Yeah, so I mean, there's tons of action. It's very reminiscent of like Winter Soldier, Civil War, that style of Marvel movie. It feels like it probably belonged in Phase 2 or like that era, you know?
Right. I don't know. Do we want it to say when it's set?
I think people know the timeline.
I didn't going into the movie.
Well, maybe I don't pay attention enough to know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's. I don't know if it's a huge spoiler. I'm not. It's really not because it's the whole trapping of the movie. So it's set immediately after Civil War. It picks up with Black Widow right after those events, and she's being basically hunted by the government and Thunderbolt Ross. So anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, that's without spoiling anything, because it is, you know, once you get into the family dynamic, you're going to get into the spoilers, right? Without spoiling anything, I really did enjoy the action, of course. Like I said, it feels like, I think one of the things that people online are likely saying is that it feels like a James Bond or a Jason Bourne kind of movie.
Yes. They certainly,
which is absolutely right,
directly nod to James Bond in the film
at the beginning, and then they do it later a bit too much on the nose for me, anyways. Like, she's actually watching a James Bond movie. She's like trying to emulate Bond this whole time.
But a good one,
yeah.
Moonraker,
sure,
a good one, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think they nailed Black Widow. It's like, for me, it just feels kind of out of place given where the rest of the MCU is. You know, it just feels like this movie. It was meant to come out last year, correct? Like,
well, before right around when the pandemic hit, so like a year and a half late.
Even then, like I said, it feels like it would have belonged not only chronologically, but also just in terms of like the themes and the scale of the movie. It would have belonged better in Phase 2 or 3, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's not really a critique. That's just, you know, unfortunate timing.
Right. I mean, well, it is a little bit of critique, I think, maybe on Marvel Studios for like waiting so long to make a Black Widow standalone movie.
Well, she was one of the first Avengers in this version of the MCU. So you know, everyone else had their first 1, 2, and 3.
Right. And then
except for Hawkeye,
she didn't even. And then, like, again, spoilers, I suppose, for Endgame, but she does die in that movie, and I don't think that's a big spoiler because I think every single person on planet has seen Endgame, but. And to not get your standalone movie until after the character's death, I think creates a little bit of melancholy to the whole movie. Like, there's this sense of like a little bit more sad than I think it would have been if this had come out before Endgame. But it also might have added to the moment in Endgame and maybe made it feel a little bit more impactful at the time.
Yeah, I don't know if I have too much more to say without spoiling anything, right, Jeremy. And it's still relatively new, so
less than a week. So yeah, absolutely. I don't want to spoil anything for people who may not have seen it.
It's like a fun spy movie, you know, lots of great action, and a lot. You get to know Black Widow. You get more time with her character, so you get to kind of understand her a little bit better, which is what you would expect from a movie.
Which is good, considering again we went all those movies and didn't really know much about her. Which I guess at the point, like, her whole thing was that she was mysterious, so like that's fine. The performances in the movie are really, really top notch. I think Florence Pugh is really good. I think is it David Harbour?
Yep.
He's really good in it too. I mean, everyone's good. I think the villain is a little underwhelming. That's my kind of just like general thought on that. Yeah. And yeah, I think I heard someone online basically saying like equating it to like a Pierce Brosnan era Bond movie, and I don't know if that's completely fair.
I would have gone Daniel Craig. It felt like it could have been one of those Daniel Craig movies.
I suppose. I mean, but it's a little bit more over the top than like those more grounded films.
But
you know?
Those ones, just because they follow that sequence, they actually all play off one another. They also deal with family and lineage and stuff like that. So there's a few through lines there.
And it's got a little bit of that Mission Impossible feel to it as well.
I mean, they're all spy movies,
right? Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
Genre that we're describing now.
I don't know. I liked it. I mean, this is a movie that it was supposed to come out. We saw the original trailer, like, oh, this is cool. That was 2 years ago, and it's like, you know, 2 years go by. A lot of expectations can be built up. I tried to keep them in check as best I could. I wasn't really sure what to expect, and I think it exceeded my expectations. I would have liked to have seen it in theaters first. Overall, but because there are some pretty fun set pieces. Although that being said, if you had to pick any Marvel movie to be seen first on the small screen, this isn't the worst one. I don't think. Yeah,
especially given where Marvel's at now, there's going to be much more spectacular stuff on screen.
Right. You know, we're not dealing with the space stuff. I mean, the stakes of this movie are much smaller than Endgame, as a great example, which is the one that's playing behind us right now. So Generally, I think it's pretty good. Taskmaster is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunate that the character is kind of like this is the last we'll kind of see of her. I mean, maybe. I mean, it's comics, so hard to say.
She's coming back, I'm sure. I feel like she's popular enough, especially after this movie. I feel like this movie's gonna be well received too.
Yeah.
I don't think that she really got her swan song in Endgame.
Right. Yeah. I guess. I mean, no, not really.
Everybody like Tony Stark dies at the end of Endgame, and he gets a huge
and
funeral,
no one's even talking about her. It's so sad.
They're able to say goodbye to the character, though. I mean, obviously there wasn't time. It's a long movie. There wasn't time to do both. It's a little weird still, but whatever. There wasn't time. But my point is that they at least put that character to bed, whereas hers is kind of left a little bit more open ended.
True. I mean, there is a bit of a tease for the Hawkeye series at the end.
Yeah.
And that's coming this year. I'm wondering if they'll touch on more of that in that series because they were so close.
Yeah.
Obviously Clint is referenced several times in the film. And they actually do some interesting stuff with like the timeline. So there is potentially room to like insert some of these characters into the timeline if you do period pieces like an MCU movie set in the 80s, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You could include some of these characters. So there's room for that stuff. And obviously we'll be seeing more of Florence Pugh because A, she's in the Hawkeye series, and B, she's kind of being set up as like the Black Widow replacement in a lot of ways. But there's worse actresses to fill those shoes. So I'm fine with that. Okay, let's move on. I guess Jeremy, I don't want to just throw to you and say, here, pick something to talk about. But is there anything that's top of mind for you that you want to touch on, or something you've seen recently that you want to touch on?
Honestly, no. I can't think of anything.
Okay, so then what I'll do then is I'll help you, and I'll mention Batman: The Long Halloween. And you have seen it, correct? I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So I want to touch on. Dan hasn't, so
it's fine. Like I don't feel like there are spoilers for this movie. I mean, I've read the book a million times.
Right.
Spoilers for those who haven't read the graphic novel.
That's true.
Long Halloween, but I feel like it's prolific enough that most people who like Batman have read it at this point.
And also, I would say that as a story, it's a pretty cliche crime drama with Batman in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like there's not much to really spoil, and it's only part one of a 2-part series, right? I will say this, and I mentioned this to Jeremy, that I think it does an amazing job of concluding the first half and making it feel like its own contained story, and that the second one really would feel like a sequel to a standalone film in a lot of ways. Jeremy, would you agree with that?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, when it ended, I was kind of like it made sense or whatever. Like I could keep watching for sure. I don't know if there was like any sense of conclusion to.
Well,
like he gets past a certain, set of like what he thinks is going on and kind of finalizes it, but not really.
Well, I mean, yeah, because it's not over. But I think there is a logical break in the story there, and it works for me. So I went to the IMDb page for the comic book, which
I saw it happen. I didn't say a word.
I don't even know, how does that make any sense? I don't even know what I'm looking at here.
I think okay, anyways.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Anyway, Jeremy, can you give us your overall impressions of the movie, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty slick. Like, I was kind of sucked in the whole time. Gotta say, huge fan of Jensen Ackles' take
Really?
here. I mean, this is just that kind of that perfect Batman you kind of picture, like just almost serious the whole time, but just kind of just even like I just think it's spot on, like to be that like badass kind of Batman, but like not too over the top. So yeah, I really liking that. Yeah, the animation's cool. Like, I mean, we've seen it before, but it looks good, animates well.
How closely does it follow the comic, do you think?
I mean, it's been a while since I've read it, but I think it's pretty close. Like, what do you think?
I think it's pretty close too. And it's also been a long time since I've read it, but it is pretty close. I mean, the main characters are all there. I mean, The Joker appears obviously in part 1 as he's on the title or on the cover, because you got to have Joker in something, and then Carmine Falcone is a major component in the crime.
Is it sort
drama.
of like spaced out month by month though?
Yes.
Okay,
that would be one critique that I would mention, is that like they do these time jumps, but it's not really clear that there's time jumps happening. They'll just say it'll just be like a title thing for like a different holiday, and it'll just jump to another holiday. But you're like, it feels like they spend so much time in these individual moments, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, on to the next one. And you're like, what happened between all these months? Between Thanksgiving and Christmas or whatever. So not that that's 2 months, but you know what I mean. So that would be one small critique, but other than that, I think I'm totally on with Jeremy. What Jeremy's saying is like, the Jensen Ackles. I mentioned, he asked me this on the last episode, and I was just like, yeah, I'm.
We were questionable questionable going into it, but I think he proves himself here.
100%. And so I'm excited to see what, like, I saw people calling for Jensen Ackles as a live action Batman. He has the physicality. I think you could do it. Maybe
Titans.
Sorry.
Throw him on Titans.
They already have a Batman there, Jeremy.
I know.
He's old.
Like,
he's an old man.
I think there's a new trailer for that new season.
The season 3.
There's a part in there where what's his name is like saying he's done or whatever, and for Nightwing to be a better Batman or the new Batman. That
would be okay. So if that is, first of all, didn't know that. That's really interesting, because if Titans is setting up this idea that like Dick is going to take on the mantle, which is something that happens in the comics. Yeah. And there's actually, it's a long span, and it deals a lot with Damian as a kind of a Robin who's really not kind of fitting the mold, and Dick really having a hard time like not knowing how to handle that and filling the shoes of Batman. If they want to tackle that in Titans, I'm all in for it. That's fine with me.
Do they have a Damian in that show yet?
They have no Damian, but not yet.
They have everybody else.
They have basically all the other Robins are involved at some point. And so that's great, but I mean, generally, I think season 2 of Titans was only okay. So I would like to see more. Did we lose Jeremy? I want to make sure we lost Jeremy.
Jeremy's gone.
We think we lost Jeremy. Hold on, we'll pull him back here.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Ready? Check. Can you hear us, Jeremy?
Jeremy, hello. Jeremy. Oh no! Oh Jesus! I hate when this happens. Hey, does the room look tilted in the camera, or is does it look like it's slanted?
I think that's just the way the
camera is, or the
laptop walls are beveled.
Oh, right.
That's giving like an optical illusion with the lights.
Fair enough. Jeremy, are you there? Are you back? Hello.
Okay, or the house is uneven.
Well, that's
it could be
more
some
likely.
Combination of these
okay,
things.
Hold on. We're gonna take a quick break. Get Jeremy back in. Okay, and we're back. Jeremy's back. We got everything back. Everything's fixed. Sorry about that. Okay, we were talking about Batman: The Long Halloween. Now, for my money, I said this in my brief review that I posted. By the way, I'm doing Letterboxd now, Dan. I don't know if you're familiar with Letterboxd.
Familiar with
Letterboxd is a social media specifically for film viewers. So you can like log the movies you watch and like write a little review and like create lists and stuff about movies. It's like really like concentrated on movies. It's really not trying to do anything else, which I kind of appreciate about it. Anyway, so I've been tracking the stuff I've been watching there, and I think this is a 10 out of 10 perfect Batman movie. And I think if you were trying to make a live action version of a Batman movie, I think this is a model you could follow very successfully. Because what it does, it exists in a world where Batman is young, so he's not you know.
You realize this is what the live action movie is going to be like.
This is what that would be great, right? Like in a world where Batman exists already.
That's why they're releasing this one. It's trying to kind of tie them together a little bit.
So you think this is a conspiracy, that you think that because they're so similar in ideas, and we already knew that it was kind of based around that?
It's just, they usually pick characters or whatever they're doing to kind of just go across the board a little bit, right? Like
they did with Suicide Squad at the same time those movies are coming out.
Right.
What do you mean?
Did they do Apocalypse War at the same time as Justice League? It feels a little separated.
Pretty much.
Anyway, if that is true, if they are following a similar mold to Batman: The Long Halloween, I think we're in store for something really awesome.
Well, I mean, I remember a lot of people saying The Dark Knight had a lot of Long Halloween in it, and I can see at least the seeds of that. It's definitely a successful model just because of the way that it goes sort of linearly. Like that.
Well, and also this concept of like multiple villains and a greater mystery, Yeah. So there's something. It's like, oh, we're just having to. It's just the Joker doing his Joker stuff again, but it's like it plays to a larger mystery. So it's like Joker's not, the holiday killer, right? Or as far as we know, in the because they have changed that kind of stuff in the past with the animated movies. Like you think you know the answer, and they switched it.
And it's always tough to introduce a new villain to such a rogues gallery, right? Like in Long Halloween, in the comics at least, and I'm sure the movie too. Like it features almost all of Batman's villains in some capacity, right?
Yeah.
But it's really tough to introduce a new villain and make them worthwhile to the audience. And I think they accomplished that in Long Halloween.
Yeah, and they have obviously Calendar Man makes an appearance, right? Which is always a fun character to include in this stuff, and obviously makes sense for a movie called The Long Halloween. But what they do with Two-Face as he's the DA at this point still.
Yeah.
And Josh Duhamel.
I think he's. Would you agree, Jeremy? Like he's like one of the best parts of the whole thing. His performance is so good.
Yeah, no, it definitely fleshes out that character more so than like anything else. Like we see a lot of them, right? So
Dent is like on the roof with Commissioner. I mean, he's not Commissioner at this point. I think he's Captain Gordon, but he's. They're.
That's the worst voice in the movie, by the way, is Commissioner Gordon, I think. It's pretty bad.
Who voices Gordon? I don't like this new IMDb layout. I feel
Billy
like
Burke.
I don't know who Billy Burke is. Do we know Billy Burke?
You'd recognize him from some stuff. I can't think of much off the top of my head.
I would recognize him apparently from Drive Angry, Twilight, and Red Riding Hood. So no, I don't really recognize him. But anyway, he's not the best part of the movie. But like, Gordon's not really a major part of it. Catwoman plays a major role. Mm-hmm. I think that who do they have as playing Selena? Naya Rivera is really good. The relationship dynamic between Batman and her, there's this kind of like understanding between them that it just comes to this idea that everything kind of comes together in the sense that like it feels like a world that's lived in already. Mm-hmm. Batman's established, but he's not like been around for 20 years, It's good.
In my mind, Long Halloween takes place at sort of that, like, I don't know if I want to call it peak Batman, because a lot of people would say that's when he first like joins the Justice League, like that era. Right. This is like the peak of Batman's career before the Justice League came to fruition, I'd say.
Right. He's still kind of off doing his own thing.
I don't know how those timelines really match up in terms of like the actual chronology, but
there is no actual chronology.
Exactly.
I would say this is like it's like somewhere between year one and like this kind of like that Bat God kind of later on idea where he's just like he knows everything, can do everything. He's not quite. There's a funny moment in this movie where he's like, someone makes fun of him for not being a very good detective. You know, like it's like all laid out in front of him, but he couldn't put the pieces together, so he has to kind of like he's like, oh, okay, I need to learn how to be a better detective, and that's like a part of the whole story of the whole thing. It's great. Again, just generally speaking, it's really, really good. Jeremy, any other thoughts you would add on Long Halloween?
The music's really good. That's about it. I mean, I think we've said pretty much everything. Like, and I could like honestly, I just can't wait for the second half, which I guess is a couple months away, or is it next month?
I can find out.
August, I think maybe.
Long Halloween Part 2. I wish I could just like have a like an AI just know what we're talking about and just like pull up all the relevant information that I need.
The world's gonna end soon. July 27th.
Yeah, it's
really what it says.
Okay, so it's like next week basically.
Nice.
2 weeks from now. So and by the like I don't always love when they split these these existing adaptations into multiple parts, but it worked really well with The Dark Knight. And it's worked really well so far with The Long Halloween. So
yeah, you got to do it for the big ones. It's hard to stuff that entire thing into one movie. I mean, I'm sure you could with Long Halloween. It's not that big, but there's so many events, right? Each holiday is its own event, and there's stuff leading up to it and denouement afterwards. So I think 2, even 3 probably could have handled that whole graphic novel.
Yeah, it's. I don't think you could do it in one movie. Based on what I saw here.
It's just nice that they can flesh out like the families, like the mafia families, and just kind of nail those characters and that dynamic and what's going on there, rather than just be kind of just thugs with faces or whatever.
Yeah, who plays Carmine? I thought he was so good too. Titus Welliver, which is a long-time character actor, been in a lot of stuff. He just brings this like calm anger to the role that I think you need for a mob boss. Really good stuff there. And then obviously Troy Baker's back as Joker, who's been Joker before, including in I think his first appearance as Joker was in Arkham Origins, the spin-off Batman game. Yeah. That didn't have it was like not as well received, but his Joker is like a spin on than Mark Hamill. Like he's just doing kind of a Mark Hamill impression. Yeah, right. I really like that. Turns out, so I'm fine with that.
It's good. It's well written here too. Like he's just constantly joking. Like it's like, but it's like just well done.
Well, yeah, and I think the formula for the Joker has been kind of figured out at this point, but he's got this. There really is a scary element to the Joker in this movie that comes through as well. I just think again, like. They really basically hit every character with like nuance and they flushed them out like 10 out of 10. And like so Jack Quaid, who's from the Boys, he plays Alberto Falcone, who's like the son, like he's like the runt of the litter, I guess. And even he's like so good. Like he's like that's a character that like I've never really cared or thought about really ever. And like just like okay, yep. Interesting character too. Like everybody's fleshed out basically. Awesome. And I mean Solomon Grundy does have a short appearance, but he's not really a major part of it or have much of a character to flesh out anyway. So
just wait for part 2.
Well, I guess maybe we'll see.
It's like you guys don't remember this.
I don't really remember it, but I mean, does it really dive into Solomon Grundy's past?
No.
Okay. Like, isn't the whole thing he just says a nursery rhyme is like a zombie? Like that's just like that's it. Like that. There's not much more.
Are we gonna see him again, or
yeah, you're gonna see him again. That's all it was. He's later on in the graphic novel.
Okay. Well, we get a post credit scene, right?
I don't remember it, Jeremy. You have to help me out here.
I think it's an introduction of a certain villain. It's gonna be popping up.
Well, I mean, like
Poison Ivy.
Yes, actually, yes. I forgot about that. Poison Ivy, who's by the way had a bit of a renaissance lately in DC, just generally.
Yeah.
I don't really recall. Did she play a major part in the comic book as well?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Again, without spoilers. No, this is a pure spoiler.
Right. So okay, don't tell us. Don't tell us then.
She plays a relatively relative to the other villains that you've met thus far. She plays a significant role.
Okay.
Similar, like maybe not on the same scale as Catwoman, but close enough.
Okay. Cool. Well, like I said, we're very excited for part 2. Dan, you need to watch this first one. It does bring that. I think I don't remember if you said you didn't like the new art style that they brought forward with the last Superman movie. It's still using that art style here. Jeremy said he mentioned he liked it. I also like it. Yeah. It's got those like hard lines, like a comic book. These like outlined edges. Kind of almost reminds me of Archer a little bit, but less detailed. I think it makes the action come through really well.
The animation really comes through pretty fluid, precise.
And I think it's just very stylish movie too. I mean, I could just go on forever talking about this movie. Just like you mentioned, Jeremy, I think the opening credits, like the way that they used to be always like a highlight of the Batman or the animated DC films, but the opening credits are just
this
next
is a
level
return to form here. Like I like when they introduce pieces from the original content, and here they show some panels from the comic, some art. And then they transition to the new, like the movie version, of whatever you're looking at.
Well, because the thing with the movie version or the comic book version of Long Halloween that's like very striking is how long his ears are. They're like crazy long in the comic book, and I don't know if that translates as well to the screen.
Everything's a little bit exaggerated in that comic, right? Like there's I remember splash pages of Joker where his teeth are like good, like 12, 13 inches long,
right?
You know, and Batman's punching him, and all his teeth are like cracking out like piano keys. Like obviously, you're not gonna. I mean, you could make a cartoon movie like that, an animated film like that, but they went a different route, and I think they probably made the better choice, all things considered.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I have a Long Halloween Batman action figure. I remember I bought the comic book because it came with the action figure and a Joker, and I thought that was like
a smart buy.
Pretty cool.
2 for 1.
And like it has the super long ears, and like I'm not opposed to really long ears. In fact, I prefer a longer Batman ear, a look, as opposed to like the Dark Knight. You know what I'm talking about? Like the stubby ear. I don't like the stubby ear as much. So I think they could have got away with it. There's a happy medium. Obviously, it's a very traditional like animated Batman look in this. Jeremy, do you want to quickly touch on some of the special features and like some of the stuff that comes on the Blu-ray? Because I know that's always exciting.
Yeah, I mean they usually include a couple samples of cartoons from Batman the Animated Series or whatnot. So I think they have one that focuses on Harvey Dent. And then a Joker one. But it's just cool to see like what they're kind of picking from to attach to this. So it's like just gives you an extra background or on the characters they're focusing on. So that's always cool. And then they always tease the next projects, which I think is just a sequel to this one.
Yeah, and there is others. I think we've talked about them. I don't really remember them off the top of my head, but I imagine there's another Suicide Squad one coming to kind of probably pair with the Suicide Squad film that's coming. But either way, fan of the new art style. I like that they're kind of they're taking a break with it. They ended that like animated continuity with Apocalypse War, and I think they're kind of going on a more like just story to story basis. Like what's the cool story we can tell? They don't necessarily have to be connected, which I'm fine with because that was kind of what they were doing before. So they can kind of go back and forth, and I'm all right with that. All right.
I don't know.
You know what?
I'm not sold on the art style yet. I haven't watched this movie, so just to be fair.
Enough. Yeah.
But I'm like, just keep making Young Justice. Just do exactly that over and over and over.
You want that?
That's all you need.
Right. Okay.
That's the perfect tone for all of them. It's done.
Just build out the Young Justice world.
Like don't fix
what's
it.
the Justice League doing in that world? Just make that show.
Keep it coming.
Well, they did, right? They brought that back.
Yeah. It was a decent season too.
I think there's another one coming. Yeah. I believe.
Yeah.
DC animation is in it's probably its strongest it's ever been, to be honest. Yeah. Because you've got stuff that's like. I mean,
I don't think you could say that.
You don't think so? In what
strongest it's ever been?
Well, in multiple venues.
They started like the crossover essentially.
Well, I guess maybe next to maybe the era of like Justice League and Batman the Animated Series. That's obviously like I think probably peak DC animated. Yeah. But from a film standpoint, like they're going strong. I think they did a smart thing by changing things up a bit to bring us back.
Yeah, you need a refresh.
And then on the TV side, Harley Quinn is critically acclaimed, and we're gonna get more seasons of that, which is only gonna bring more attention to DC animation generally. And I know you guys haven't seen it, but it is really really good. And then we have that new Batman animated series coming from Bruce Timm, around the corner. So I think we're in a really good spot. And, if maybe not as good as it's ever been, but it's certainly like we have the potential to get back to those heights. I think, at least while the movies are floundering, the live action movies anyway. Okay, that's enough of that for just a moment. And this is, by the way, this is episode 166. I remember thinking, way back at episode 66 that we had a missed opportunity by not calling it, doing an Order 66 special, and so I want to fix that by doing a small segment.
We'll get to it at 466. Get our shit together by then.
I want to fix that a little bit by touching on something and trying to sell you guys. I feel like I've been trying to sell you guys on this for a while, but I just saw. We had. No, listen.
Wait, do we have anything to crack Daniel right now?
Right. Yeah, where's a can?
Yeah, no. Just got this.
Right. Like a pen to click or something.
No, let's hear it out.
Okay.
Okay,
right. Exactly.
I'm ready.
I think I can sell the Bad Batch to you guys. I think I can do it. I think I can do it.
Like, and it's now or never. Like, you can't talk about it if we don't.
That's got to be the deal. If you're persuasive enough, I'll watch it. I'll watch every minute of it. But if it doesn't work, you got to never mention it again.
Yeah, I feel like it's not a good deal because you just say you're not interested and then it's over. How can I hold you to
Scout's honor?
Okay,
we'll
all
use
right.
the honor system.
Sure, all right. I'm not ready to make that commitment just because again we do a weekly recap show, Rachel and I, talking about it, and it's a 27-minute show. We do an hour almost every week on the show, and it's gotten to the point, Dan, I think that the show is complex enough that when we were reviewing Game of Thrones and it was like an hour episode, we were doing 2 hours.
Come on,
we were doing like 2 hour episodes.
Okay, come on.
I'm not saying whoa. I'm saying that's how we were able to talk about it for that long because there's enough.
No, I believe you. And like obviously both of you are like super fans like of like the original Clone Wars series, and there's a lot of lore within that. I mean, I get all that, and I have nothing against that side of it. It's just the other cartoony stuff that I couldn't get behind. I'm not a big fan of the Bad Batch characters in the first place. I may give it a shot one day. I don't know. Anyways, do your spiel.
Okay. So the reason I'm this is like, again, so a little, little forced maybe because of the 166 thing, maybe.
Okay.
But it works because ultimately it's a show dealing with the fallout of Order 66. That's like the conceit of the show, essentially, right? The Jedi are dead. We're going to follow some clones and what's happening in the world of Star Wars immediately following Episode 3. That excited me going in. I know it was less exciting for you guys, but what excited me going into that was it's just a time period that's never really been explored before. We've touched on it little in places here or there, but we just know, hey, the Order 66 happened and the Republic died and then the Empire happened and then A New Hope, right? That's kind of like, that's basically all we really knew, and we've been filling in that. Right. Thank you, Tom. Should I do it? Should I do the impression? Okay.
You're gonna do it anyways.
No, well, you're not even listening. Okay. Execute. Oh, fuck, it's bad. Execute Order 66. No, I think that's good. I think that's
close
not bad.
enough. Yeah,
right.
he really hits the X like
66. Yeah. Unlimited power. Right, I gotta do a couple of them, right?
Yeah.
Anywho, so what the show is doing, and I think it's done. Like, there's some of the later episodes now in the season. It's a 16-episode season, and we're at episode 11.
Yeah. That's pretty cool.
Okay, and so we're about over halfway done, and the show is spending time on things that I didn't think a Disney animated show, even though it's coming from the same people who made the Clone Wars, would do. It's spending time on understanding the politics and thank you, Tom. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's a great compliment. I appreciate that. It's spending time on understanding the politics and emotional state that these planets are in immediately following the Clone Wars, right? So the war is over, right? Some places are like, yay, the Empire, right? Other places less so. Right?
Yeah.
They specifically go to a planet in episode 10 that had the Senate for the Separatists. That's where their Senate was, right? And there is an episode in the Clone Wars that deals with this idea that, despite the fact that it's all manipulated and Dooku's really behind, and Palpatine's behind everything, that there are a general sense that the Republic's abandoning planets, and they would like to.
The Separatists had a point.
Yeah, they had a point.
Yeah.
Right. So they go back to this planet, and now they've lost the war, and the Empire is imposing their will on these planets, and it deals this first episode. This episode starts, and there's a Imperial commander basically saying like, hey, we're going to be imposing a curfew for your safety, all this kind of stuff, and they have the local senator who's supposed to like back up agree with this so that the people don't riot, right? And he has a crisis of conscience, and there's this whole he's having to deal with this idea that like I can't get behind this, and that's just one element.
All right.
And then the most recent episode, which I think this is the reason I'm able to sell this to you guys. The most recent episode deals with completely changes the model and the mold of the entire show, because up until this point it had been following the Bad Batch characters and we're seeing the world through their perspective, right? This episode doesn't do that. It's completely separate. It's just like, oh, we're just going to tell a different story. And they go to Ryloth, which is the home planet of the Twi'leks.
Of course. And
Ryloth is one of the furthest, most far-flung outer world planets. And during the Clone Wars, there's this whole process where they didn't trust the Republic, and then they had to come and rescue them, and then they earn the respect of the Clone Army. And it was all about this idea that, like, hey, they've been fighting for so long, and they just want to stop fighting. So this episode goes to Ryloth, and it picks up basically immediately after the war is over. The Empire is building a refinery and mine on the planet, and his main character, who we've seen many times in the Clone Wars, who is kind of this guerrilla warfighter general, right? Who's just like, it's all about the freedom of Ryloth. Sorry, they should say it in a French accent because they have French accents on for some reason, right? I will do whatever I need to do to protect Ryloth. It's fun, like it's hilarious, but like so. He is like basically like, hey, these clones have earned our respect. They're going to protect us, and we need to lay down our arms and try to make this work, right? And the episode's called Devil's Deal because ultimately they're being set up to be abused. What we know about the future of Ryloth is that the Twi'leks get enslaved and sold into slavery. It's not a good outcome for them. But it just spends all this time and nuance on the understanding of like the politics of the planet, why it matters to like different things matter to different people. He's got a lieutenant who's like really not. He's like, I don't trust this. He's smuggling weapons, and it ultimately ends with a character being shot in the head, and like on the animated series, and it's like in this whole like false flag operation. It's like, okay, you know what? This is pretty cool, and the whole show looks amazing. Like it's like, I don't know, it just took them this long to get to this point, but like the level of like dynamic lighting makes they love to light up clouds now. There's these shots of ships coming in from the atmosphere, and they're like,
that works. That always works.
Stunning cloud work, and like the shadows, and like it's way smarter than I think I even was willing to give it credit for going in, because I always thought there was nuance to this stuff, but like especially Clone Wars was full of episodes that weren't great in my opinion. I know people love the droid episodes. I did not. This is not really like that. There's no Jar Jar episodes here. This is just soldiers dealing with what is life like when you no longer, especially by the way, soldiers who are born and bred for one purpose, right? Well, what does that mean?
That's one of my questions. Like, that's one of the things I feel like Star Wars has missed. Even with, I know, and they touched on it in the Clone Wars series enough, but they don't really explore like what is it to be a clone? So that's those sort of questions, those existential questions of the clones. So they introduce, and speaking of this 11th episode, I would maybe even recommend just watching that, and if you're interested in it, then like maybe going back because it's kind of a standalone episode. It introduces a clone. You guys will like this. His name is Hauser. Cool name. Yeah. Right. And they introduced this clone, Captain Hauser, and he's very similar in like his design. He's got a distinct look and design that has, vague similarities to Rex, I would say. But what we've seen from clones throughout this whole series, following Order 66, is they're much more like staunch by the book, right? There's no really personality. Their personality has been kind of lost after Order 66. Minus, our heroes who removed their control chips, and Rex who also had his removed.
and a few others. There's a clone that they go back to who there's an episode in Clone Wars where he's a deserter, and his name is Cut. So they talk to him, and he's still got his personality. But the regular clones, they don't have personality. They're just kind of like mindless automatons. Essentially, they're basically a droid army. There's a little bit of that kind of duality there. But this episode introduces the idea that, like, okay, so this captain was on Ryloth. He may or may not have murdered a Jedi at Order 66. We don't know that information. We don't know if there was a Jedi on Ryloth at the time. Who knows? But he clearly still has that personality that the clones had in the Clone Wars that really endeared people to the clones. And it raises all these questions about, okay, how did Order 66 affect clones generally? What does it mean for this clone specifically? Why is Hauser different? Like, is he special, or is there this idea that, like, the mind control only works for so long that ultimately you can't repress these personalities forever? There's a lot of questions that it raises that the show is obviously willing to explore. And by the way, there's all these other episodes that have amazing, like, references to, like, westerns, and that's always been in Star Wars, but they really lean into it in certain parts. And the action is next level, like really quality action work. It's probably the best stuff that they're doing right now. I don't know if I like it better than Mandalorian season 2, but it's certainly, like, up there in terms of its quality, and it's asking deeper questions. I think because it's not as trying to appeal to as broad of an audience that it's able to do that differently than Mando is, where it's like pretty. It's in there if you want it, but it's not really like a part of the story. The nature of what it is to be a clone, and of course there's still Star Warsy stuff in there, but there's really almost no lightsabers in the entire, because obviously, like, how would there be?
It's not a selling feature though,
right? But I mean, it is when you consider that, like, they're trying to stay true to what these characters are about.
It makes sense within the timeline. I'm just saying that's something that I feel has even in the movies been, like, kind of missing, is like Rogue One, Solo, all this
no
Clone Wars
lightsabers
stuff. They're like kind of steering away from the Jedi lore, and even within the movies, not to get too deep into it,
right?
But they do
right. We don't want to touch on the movies, Dan. We're not touching. We're not
steer
away
movies. From that, right? They do kind of de-emphasize at least the status of the Jedi and the Jedi Order a bit. So I feel like that's what always, for me, part of Star Wars was the mythology, was the sacredness to a degree of certain aspects of it. I think that's what's been missing. So, like, a show like this, I believe you, and that you're doing a good job selling it. That makes a lot of sense to me. I just feel like it's not what I'm looking for from a Star Wars show.
Okay, fair enough. There is, like, it just, like, I would say it's just, like, yeah, it is ultimately it's a show about, like, political intrigue and personal drama, and it's like, okay,
those are selling points. 16 episodes, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm sick of these 6-episode Loki series. It's not
right.
You're not a series. You're a mini. You're a mini series.
Well, I think they're trying to sell themselves as miniseries. I don't know if they're misrepresenting themselves.
They didn't tell me that. So.
Oh, you just didn't read the fine print, obviously.
Yes, yeah, that's not what I purchased.
Anyway, it's pretty amazing, and I think just there's a lot of nods to Clone Wars stuff, and there's characters that make reappearances, and that's fine because it ultimately is a sequel to that series. So there would be two things I would say: watch the first episode, which is an hour long. It's like a mini movie that picks up, actually pre-Order 66, reintroduces the characters. I think gives them way more personality and makes them likable, because they really weren't likable. Well, I didn't like them in my first
they were
period.
just caricatures originally.
Yeah,
right?
And they're more than that. I think in this series they have to be, because they're literally the titular characters. And so watch that first. It'll at least give you an impression of how good the show looks, because it does. Like, Camino just looks like almost as good as it does in live action. I would say, like, it's right up there. And then if you want, like, a taste of something a little bit more, like I was describing, jump to episode 11, and there's a whole bunch of stuff in between that's worth touching on. So that's my sell job for Order 66, episode 66, 166.
Yeah.
For the Bad Batch. It's really good, and obviously, again, if you're liking it, we are doing weekly reviews for the folks at home.
Nice.
So
yeah, you put a lot into thought
and
effort.
I was really thinking about it after the episode. It came out on Friday. And I watched it while I was at camping. I was actually pulled my laptop out, attached my phone, and watched it camping. And I was like, wow, this is great. I can't wait to tell you guys about it because it's so cool.
What do you think, Jeremy? You sold?
He's like, he left the room.
Yeah.
I think he left. Anywho,
his thing did drop in and out. I don't know.
Did it?
I don't know.
Oh, maybe he was like, I'm not hearing. He's like, I'm not even hearing anything. Anywho, that's Order 66. That's the Bad Batch. That's the, it is what it is. The Emmy Awards, by the way, the Emmy nominations came out. I'll just, without getting into the specifics, there was some nominations for WandaVision. Yep. There was some nominations. There was Don Cheadle got nominated somehow for Captain America Winter Soldier and Captain Falcon Winter Soldier. Yeah. And he's like, I don't know how this makes sense. It doesn't make any sense. He was appeared for like 10 minutes in one episode, the first episode. Do you remember that? No, exactly. He somehow got it. So there, the Emmys, just like any of these award shows, they don't really necessarily mean anything. The Emmys have had a problem in the past where they would sometimes just like give a nod to a movie star who decided to like grace the TV screen. Yeah. I guess that's what they're doing here. Like, I didn't realize Don Cheadle was that like a big of a deal, but
he's star caliber. He's up there.
You think he's like Jeremy? Hello? Where does this whistling keep coming from?
I heard it too this time.
Jeremy?
No.
What a weird. What could it be?
It was like when his thing came back up, it whistled like that. So it's got to be some sort of prompt. But
maybe I'm not looking at it as hard. Anyway, back to the Emmys. We'll get Jeremy back in here eventually. He'll hear it. He'll figure it out.
He'll figure it out.
We'll probably hear his voice. Disney leads all of the combined conglomerates, which is sad.
This is the world we live in, guys.
The Disney monoculture, because they have Disney Plus, Hulu, ABC, and FX, which is a lot. 146 total nominations. Second was HBO Max and HBO with 138, which is actually pretty good considering it's basically just HBO Max and regular HBO.
I mean, how many total nominations are there?
I don't know. Okay. Lots.
Is it much more than the two of those combined?
Well, Netflix has 130. So there's that. I mean, maybe I'll pull them up and see if there's anything interesting that jumps out. But Ted Lasso got a nom.
I mean, between those three numbers, that's got to be the vast majority. Like, there's only so many categories. And each category has, in the Emmys, I don't know, is it 4 or 6 nominations, something like that? That's quite a few, all consolidated into 3 major businesses.
The conglomerates. We keep losing Jeremy. Jeremy, hello.
Hello.
How much of my cell job did you hear?
I don't like calling it that.
A little too much. I think you had Ben here and there.
A little too much.
And I don't know.
Oh man. Okay. All right, I understand. It's not for you. I get it. Okay. I'll never speak of it again.
Wait, you didn't sell Dad?
I think a little bit.
I don't know. Not like, I don't think that sold me. I think my opinion is unchanged of the series. That doesn't mean I'm never gonna watch it. That just means
it. Fair enough.
Maybe we'll watch like a quick recap when it's all said and done.
I feel like if I got back into Clone Wars and watched like the last season of Clone Wars, then I might be more amped to watch.
Did you not finish the last season of Clone Wars?
I don't remember. I mean,
man, you didn't see the Siege of Mandalore? It's basically a 3-part. Yeah. It's basically a 3-part movie.
If I don't remember it, I might as well not have seen it.
Because Dan, if you're like, oh, there's not enough lightsabers. One of the best lightsaber fights in all of Star Wars is in the final season of Clone Wars. Yeah. Hands down, not even close. They do a they bring Darth Maul back, and which is already known. We already knew that, but they do a full what's it called when you put the balls on your body, motion capture. They do a full motion capture fight. Lightsaber fight in this. Anyway,
they call it mocap.
Mocapping. Yes, thank you. In fact, you have to see it because it takes place concurrently with Episode 3. It takes place concurrently with Episode 3, and there's like scenes that take place.
I don't know how many Emmys was it nominated for.
Actually, quite a few, I believe.
Season.
But they get award. They get nominations from daytime Emmys. I think it's the lesser of them. So Jeremy, we were just talking about the Emmys, and we were mentioning how many nominations that the 3 major conglomerates received. So the Disney had 146 total nominations, HBO Max had 138, and Netflix had 130. So that's a lot. But there's some cool ones here, like drama series. The Boys was nominated. Handmaid's Tale was nominated. Lovecraft Country was nominated. A show that Dan you really liked, but HBO just doesn't because they canceled that show after one season, unfortunately. So that's exciting. Jeremy, This Is Us. I know you're a big fan of This Is Us. Am I mistaken there? Or are you still watching that?
Maybe at one point in time. I don't think not anymore. That's for sure.
Maybe not a big fan. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so comedy series. Some that stump out at me. Cobra Kai jumping out at me right here, obviously, right? And Ted Lasso. Those are two that jump right out at me, obviously. And The Kaminsky Method, which is I think, amazing show on Netflix. Very good. I haven't seen The Flight Attendant or some of these others, but I'm just saying, clearly the Emmys have good taste, is what, in this category at least, along with like Blackish, Hacks, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff. The others, 10, 15, you know.
You need like 6 out of 8 nominations and then say that kind of stuff.
You know. Emily in Paris, that's a weird one. That one should have got nominated. It's widely regarded as bad. The limited series, WandaVision gets a nomination here.
Oh, so it is called a limited series, not a series. Okay.
Right.
And that was like how many? 8 or 9 episodes, something like
that? Yeah.
Loki's only 6. It's ridiculous.
Why is that ridiculous exactly? Would you
like,
want it to be more? Why
There's
so
much
draw
more
it out?
to explore.
So do you feel like they didn't touch on everything?
I would like more. I know there's going to be another season, and I know
is there going to be another season?
Deliberate. Well, probably. You guys have to watch it before the last episode. I just watched it before this podcast.
Okay.
I was prepping myself for this.
Actually, I hadn't had a chance to see it. I'm going to watch it after this. I've seen everything up to this. Just general thoughts on Loki. I think it's great. I think it's super good. It's for me, like we were talking about Black Widow earlier. I love these like quiet moments, and I think like that there's a scene at a dinner table in that movie that I think is amazing. It's subdued. It's not an action scene, but it's probably the best moment in the entire movie.
Yep.
And Loki is just full of these. It's just like basically a whole show of just those types of moments dealing with this stuff in that world. It's, I think, fascinating.
Jeremy, you've been watching Loki?
I've only seen the first episode, but I fell asleep, so I haven't really given it a shake.
Come on.
It's good. It's good. I mean, like, Dan, what is it that you think is like makes it so good?
It's such a it's a crazy sci-fi wacky concept, which I'm 100% on board for.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
It's got that goofy sort of whimsical nature. It's still fun. It feels like a Marvel movie. Tom Hiddleston is charming as hell. You know.
Yeah.
You don't like the character Loki. Like he's a despicable character.
People like the character Loki.
I know some people. I know those types of people.
Don't even get me started.
But what I'm saying is he's charismatic enough to carry it. To actually make you care about the character who's otherwise kind of a dipshit, right?
Right. And by the way, this a version of Loki that is especially unlikable, the version of Loki that we get at the beginning of the series.
Right. And I love just being able to travel through time within the series. They play hard and fast with the rules. It's kind of unclear where, you got to stop sort of thinking about it after a while and just like understand the concept that, okay, we're traveling through time. They don't know the rules, or at least they're not being explicit about the rules, so we just have to roll with the punches.
Yeah, it's just like they can go anywhere at any time, so really it's just whatever serves the story which is fine. I think they go to some interesting places. Like they go to like near future so there's like, the first category 6 hurricane. Like that's
without spoiling anything, there's a lot of moments that are, or there's some moments anyways that are at the at some like famous apocalypses. And I'm a big fan of that as a concept.
Yep.
So I think it gets a lot of that kind of stuff right. It gets the character of Loki mostly right. My only nitpicky sort of complaint is like I feel like there's almost too much action and too much kung fu.
I would agree.
Like that was never really a big thing for his character. I would like more like I imagine more like political intrigue and him sort of like behind the scenes influencing people as opposed to outright just fighting,
Well, I guess it's hard for this show to do that because he's kind of called out for that specific thing. Like we know that's your whole deal, so we're not really going to let you kind of get away with that, That's
the only thing. Other than that, though, it's a delightful show, and you should watch it, Jeremy.
I would totally agree with Dan.
Yeah,
Jeremy, you definitely should watch
it.
I don't know if I like it. WandaVision I really liked because there was this like overall sense of mystery and wonder to that show that I don't really know if obviously Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier did not have, and this show does have some of, and they're similar in more ways than they're different. I think WandaVision and Loki, and I'm not sure which one I like more, but I really liked WandaVision, and I really like Loki. So you know, in terms of Jeremy, I know you mentioned before, like you're not super excited for this phase of Marvel, but if what they're doing with this phase is spending like using the TV, the Disney Plus side of things to really explore these characters and like use those quiet moments effectively, I think that's going to be where you're maybe getting more value out of this time in Marvel. Maybe,
Yeah.
At least for me, that's how I'm feeling about it. I just Loki's great. I think the world that they set up, the world of the TVA is so cool. It's just so cool. Like it doesn't really necessarily have to make sense or whatever.
It certainly
it's like
doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't make. It doesn't have to make sense, but like it's just so stylish and fun.
Yeah. Owen Wilson's awesome. It's classic Owen Wilson, but that's exactly what you want out of this role.
Right.
He's also very charming. It's a great show. It's got a great cast. You're right, because this is between this and WandaVision and Doctor Strange, the madness,
multiverse of madness.
Like this is where Marvel's getting, and the Eternals too, getting very cosmic, getting into these weird sort of more like 70s comic book concepts, and that's what's going to dictate this phase of the MCU. Like these things are huge, in this case, universe-altering powers. Whatever happens, whatever the results of these various shows are, is what's going to dictate the future of the MCU, like it or not. And that's likely also what's going to, one of them, in some capacity, is going to introduce the X-Men. Either it's Wanda.
You think the show is going to introduce X-Men?
Wanda creating a new reality that has mutants,
right,
or some time stream that has mutants, or like an effect of one of these sort of reality-altering, universe-altering powers is going to be the advent of the mutants.
How long do you think they can hold out before they bring the mutants in?
Not much longer, I don't think. not too many more projects, other than what they have on the slate already.
Which is a lot, right? And then there's a lot of movies. And by the way, speaking of Marvel films, Taika Waititi came out the other day in an interview, and I only really got a chance to see the headline, but basically it was along the lines of, it's the craziest movie he's ever made, and it's crazy that Marvel let him make it at all, and it's going to be nuts. So
Thor: Love and
Thunder. Yeah. So whatever that means, I don't know. You already know that I'm all in on Team Waititi, so I'm stoked for that. We also found out, just speaking of directors, that the Book of Boba Fett is going to have, along with Rodriguez kind of helming it, there's going to be, some of the Mandalorian season 2 directors are going to be involved in it, so it's going to be a little bit more like, seemingly a little bit more like the Mandalorian season 3 in a lot of ways, which I think is unfortunate, because I think Rodriguez kind of brings a whole different vibe to the whole thing. By the way, speaking of Rodriguez, I don't know if you guys have you seen the movie Desperado, Daniel?
Yeah,
I just saw it for the first time recently. Because I really
seen the whole series, El Mariachi.
There's more in it.
Are you?
I didn't even know that.
Jeremy,
wait, is Desperado in the middle of it? Is it? Okay. So I didn't know that.
Jeremy, I think you would probably know better than me, but my understanding is that Desperado is sort of like the American version of El Mariachi.
Okay,
yeah, it's something like that. I don't know too much either, but
okay.
It's definitely cool.
Okay, so now that you've watched that, Desperado's amazing.
Yeah,
now you have to watch Once Upon a Time in Mexico.
Okay,
it's available on Netflix. Once Upon a Time in Mexico, great movie.
Okay, all right. I loved. Okay, so to be fair, right, like that movie is like really tailor made for like my interest, because it's got like Spanish guitar, and I'm like, ooh, I love that, and this like these like monologues from big actors, right? Then they're really just chewing the scenery. Right, I'm into that. That's really sweet.
A lot of heightened drama.
Right. And then,
like
that being said, I think the action is the worst part, which I think is weird, because it's just so silly. There's a gunfight in a bar that is just they're just like constantly missing each. It's funny because like they've got two guns or multiple weapons. There's multiple people and no one can hit anyone, and it's like kind of dumb. Like they pick up a gun and it's empty, and they pick up another one and it's empty. It's kind of cool.
You have to understand about being like one of the world's best assassins is not only are you good at hitting people, you're good at not getting hit. That's why they're all not hitting each other. It's really challenging for them.
Okay, fair enough. All I'm saying is, I really loved Desperado. So I've got a lot of homework to do, obviously, on the Rodriguez front. But I wanted to get at least one of those under my belt before Book of Boba Fett. We got a trailer for that, because I want to be able to understand what Rodriguez is really bringing from like what excites him about it, other than the fact that Boba Fett's cool, And
some of those Western motifs will stick around.
100%. So anyway, anywho, back to the Emmys. Anyway, is there any?
How did that happen?
I don't know. So lead actor in drama series, Sterling K. Brown from This Is Us. Big Jonathan Majors from Lovecraft Country. I don't think we can disagree with that. I think that's a great pick.
We're gonna be talking about him a lot more in the future. I'll say that.
You think?
Yeah, I have
okay.
a feeling.
Okay. Yeah. I think I know what you're hinting at, but I'm not gonna mention. Because I'm not gonna say anything further than that. Lead actress in a drama series, and is there anyone else that stands out to me? The Crown appears a bunch of times here. I'll never watch The Crown. I don't think I'll ever watch it.
You're not interested in the monarchy?
No. Are you?
No.
Okay, just checking.
My family is like very interested. Like my mom would know like the whole lineage.
Right.
The way I know the Targaryens, my mom knows the British, the British monarchy.
Right. Okay. And like maybe I feel like this is maybe unfair, but I think that the knowledge of the Targaryens is equally as unimportant as the knowledge of the British monarchy.
I think that's fair. I'd agree with
right?
that.
Okay. Elizabeth Moss gets nominated again for Handmaid's Tale. I think she's won already for this role, maybe multiple times, so not a surprise to see her there. Lead actor in a comedy series, Jason Sudeikis for Ted Lasso.
Oh, what do you know?
Well earned.
What show?
Ted Lasso, Jeremy.
Never heard of it.
Oh, by the way, guys, this is coming back next week, so this is your chance.
What's it about? Does he do a rodeo? Is that what he does?
No.
He's a lasso man.
No.
He wears sweet shoes.
Guys.
He gives a TED talk, maybe.
I mean, kinda. Actually, more closer than you would think to that. I mean, I feel like I talked about the show before. I mean, obviously I have. It's a really great show
at length, actually.
And yeah,
in fact.
And so I'm gonna resubscribe to Apple TV Plus for this. Send them
season 3 is it
season
coming up?
Season 2. There's just one season, 10 episodes, half hour. Very, very digestible.
It feels like you've been talking about it for years, so there's
right.
got to be multiple seasons.
It's the 2. And so I'll give you guys the login. You'll have a smorgasbord.
I feel like I would genuinely enjoy the show. That's the thing. I know I would.
So you're just being a dink about it?
No, I don't know. It's been inaccessible for this long, and
right. Okay.
Now
fair
it's
enough.
become a schism. Now it's become
it's a thing now. Okay. So I'll just let it be. I'll just make it available, and if you watch it, you watch it, and if not, your loss.
Mm-hmm.
Lead actress in a comedy series, Kaylee Cuoco from The Flight Attendant. I heard she did a really amazing job in that. I don't know the other ones. Lead actor in a limited series, Paul Bettany gets a nomination for WandaVision.
Sweet.
Gotta love that. Didn't know Hugh Grant was still acting, but he gets a nod here. Ewan McGregor gets a nod for a miniseries he's doing where he's like a fashion mogul. I watched a trailer for it. I think it's also on Apple TV Plus. It looks very odd, but I mean, if you're a Ewan McGregor fan. This is a weird one. Lin-Manuel Miranda gets a nomination here for Hamilton.
Why is that weird?
Because
you don't think it fits the
I don't
category?
think it fits the category of a limited series. It's first of all, it's a movie.
Or movie.
Which is why are we even giving a nod? It's because it's a TV movie. It went straight to TV. It went straight to Disney Plus. But like
it's the Emmys, right?
But
it's not movies. It's all TV movies.
But it's just a record. It's just a recording of a stage play. How does that qualify? I don't. It is what it is. But
they don't have a category for that. So this is as close as they could get.
Well, Leslie Odom Jr. also gets a nod for Hamilton, and I would, if it had to go between the two of them, I would give it to Leslie Odom Jr. That's my take on that. Lead actress in a limited series or movie, Elizabeth Olsen gets a nod here for WandaVision as well. I think also well earned. She's very good in it. Mm-hmm. Variety talk show. It's probably going to be The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. He seems to win every single year now.
Is that what happens?
It's been like that for a while. Yeah.
Last Week Tonight with John Oliver is
sorry.
Best.
I lied. This is John Oliver's.
That's the one that wins.
That's the one that's going to win.
That's the one I like.
Sorry, the Daily Show, This Week Tonight, and The Late Show. All the names are fairly similar. They kind of blend together here. And also, John Oliver does come from The Daily Show, so I mean, whatever.
So does Stephen Colbert and Trevor Noah. They were all under Jon Stewart at one point.
Yes.
Jimmy Kimmel was always doing his own thing, though.
Mm-hmm. He had the Man Show.
Mm-hmm. Same with Conan. They were always separate.
By the way, Conan, do you notice he's ending his run? You hear that on TBS? Yeah. Kind of sad. Jeremy, I feel like you liked Conan. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, I went through a phase where I was watching pretty much all late night, but yeah, I just remember him being the funniest to me. Like a lot of mixture of like physical humor and like just over the top kind of humor. I mean, didn't he write for like The Simpsons and stuff like that too? Like,
Yeah,
I think he's pretty witty.
Remember he did that whole series. I remember, Jeremy, I feel like you showed me some of these videos on YouTube. He did a whole series where he was like a gamer.
Yes.
And he would game with like professional athletes playing NFL or something like that.
Right.
And, like, I don't have a ready example in my mind, but those were just as a gamer, those were perfect.
He was
skits.
He was
that
just
was just like the YouTube phase. Like they were just trying to create content there. Like he almost didn't seem like he was into it sometimes. But I think he played on that and just being totally unaware of like what he's doing. And it just ended up being hilarious.
Yeah, he's kind of like the whole bit was the fact that he knows nothing about games. So they would like he played a bunch of ones. Like I feel like he played. It was more than just like the big name games. Like it was Madden was for sure in there. But like,
I remember watching like the Mortal Kombat ones.
Yeah,
sure.
There's other ones, and it was like more obscure. I'm like, okay, this is pretty funny stuff. And so yeah, he's moving on. But yeah, he did write for Simpsons, and
isn't he just like not like moving off cable and going on to like
he's going to HBO Max, I believe. Yeah. So I'm not going to read the competition program. Doesn't matter. Television movie. Don't know any of those. Supporting actor in a drama series. We're going to skip some of this stuff. I want to see their sketch comedy, variety sketch show. Only 2.
SNL and other.
And a Black Lady sketch show. Those are the 2. Variety special. I mean,
SNL like wins basically every year.
Yes, it does. Which is okay. So variety special. Bo Burnham's Inside is nominated. Dan, you did watch that?
Yeah. It was incredible.
I can't stop thinking about Bo Burnham's Inside. It is so good.
It hurts, but like it's incisive. It's challenging, but it's also really funny. I don't know. It's
to me, it's a transcendent work.
Well, it's just one of those things.
Good.
Like, it's so of the moment, of the era, right? It's made during the pandemic, and I think we can all right now, especially like maybe not in 5 years or 10 years, relate to it as much as we can now. Like right now, it was cathartic and weird to talk about a comedy special like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But because it was definitely funny too, mostly funny, but it has these like really deep sort of moments that kind of like pull on your heartstrings and make you think about the year and a half we all just went through. So
it's
highly recommend that.
It's a comedy special that could make you cry and laugh, and the music is good. I mean, Bo Burnham's always been good at making like catchy tunes as it is, but like the music.
I would also recommend watching all of his other specials. This guy is incredible. Like one of the most intelligent comedians out there. The way that he puts things together makes you like challenges you to think about things. It's hard to describe, but yeah, he's a genuinely talented person.
So Dan, I would bring this up then, because one of the critiques I heard for Bo Burnham's Inside, which I don't think is fair personally.
Sure. Okay.
But one of the critiques I heard was that, it's like it's so easy for a comedian to like say all these things, right? Like, to call out all these injustices or the state of the world or the problems in society, but like, ultimately he's just another rich, white guy, getting rich off his comedy specials. And like, so like, is that a fair critique? Because I don't think it is, because that's not his job. Isn't to fix the world. It's just he's a comedian.
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know if critique is the right word. It's a fair comment. It's accurate, given the circumstances. I believe though his first skit in that special is addressing that directly,
right? About
how like it I feel like I don't remember specifically. I'm not going to do it justice here, but he's essentially calling out the fact that he is just another rich white male celebrity, essentially calling attention to these larger issues, right?
But like, but I guess so again, I'm paraphrasing here, but the idea is like, okay, well, just because you admit that being the case, does that absolve you of responsibility?
Responsibility. I mean, like any one of us, if we want to talk about responsibility, we all could be doing a better job in these arenas, right? I think that everybody has a role to play, and for somebody like him, if he can be influential within this medium, and draw attention to these things, that is actually a form of helping. I'm sure everybody could. I'm sure he could be doing more. I'm sure we could all. I'm certain I could be doing more. Like we all could think about things that way. So no, to answer your question, I don't think it's not his responsibility. I think calling attention to it, the fact that we're talking about these things more and more is not enough, but it is a first step or a first few steps.
Well, and again, like, sure, I'm sure Bo Burnham has his own personal responsibility he needs to deal with, but he is ultimately just a comedian. It's not his job to run for office just because he can, and just because you're not running for office or trying to fundamentally change the world in a practical sense. He's not out building houses. Doesn't mean that he can't still make that piece of media. Like I don't think that
it's valid to talk about. I wouldn't say that anybody is just a comedian. Like it's just that's his vocation, and this is how he's voicing these things. Right?
Sure.
He's using his platform in an effective way. Like I don't know. Like I'm not saying that it solves a lot of these problems, but at least bringing attention to them, I think, still helps. That's my only point.
Okay, fair enough. I think that's a fair enough answer to that. Hosted nonfiction series, host for reality competition program, animated program. Okay. Big Mouth, Bob's Burgers, Gendy Tartakovsky's Primal. That's the guy who did Samurai Jack. The Simpsons somehow again, and also South Park: The Pandemic Special, which I have not seen. I'm sure you have. Is it good?
It's excellent, man. I mean, everything South Park has ever done has been pretty good.
Okay.
I don't know, Jeremy. You didn't watch a lot of South Park, eh?
I used to, but I haven't. I've never even heard of this.
I didn't. Yeah, like it's not. They don't normally do specials. This is why it's weird.
It's gonna be tough because South Park went into this phase, which is so out of character for them. But I think it was due to Trump being elected,
right?
The American
serialized,
president. So it became more serialized, and they kind of they had characters. So Garrison becomes their analogy for Trump. Not even veiled. It's pretty overt.
Yeah. Yep.
So they have to keep that character over. The character has arcs, and then all the other characters also have to follow arcs. So I don't remember the numbers of which season, but they do start following a more serialized format, and I think that took away some of the magic of the show for me, at least.
Yeah.
So to watch the Pandemic Special now, whereas normally you could just pick up a South Park episode any day you want, this I feel like you kind of have to do a little bit of homework in that you have to watch the previous season.
Okay.
A little bit. It's just all references. I'm sure this works as its own little special,
but you just get so much more out of
it.
it.
You're gonna miss a few of the jokes if you don't understand, Integrity Farms and whatnot.
That's the one that comes to mind a lot. The Integrity Farms things are very funny.
It's not Integrity Farms.
I said Integrity.
It sounded like you said.
I said Integrity. Don't worry. Love, Death, and Robots.
You got to hit that apostrophe at the beginning of the word.
Integrity. Yeah. Short form animated program. Love, Death, and Robots gets a nomination here. It's not clear if it's season 1 or season 2. Have you seen season 2?
Yeah.
Does any of those shorts stand out to you?
Oh, not right now. I mean, the one that I think you mentioned it on the show, but also the drowned giant. Because it sticks out to me from a writing perspective because it feels like pure, almost stream of consciousness. It was like one, like a short story.
Yeah.
That then they added the visuals to. I feel like they didn't really change the script too much, and then just added the visuals to create a story. And I think it was really cool. Everything that show does is like. It has those same feelings, right? It's just like cool, a different way to look at things. It's like a new age sort of Outer Limits without the analogy or the anthology aspect.
Sure. I like the one with the guys hunting the babies or children, the children hunters or whatever. Though, like that has Nathan Drake, Nolan North and he kind of is modeled after him too. He kind of like this noir-esque series, and the way it ends with them kind of shooting each other. Spoilers. Is I think that one stands out as being particularly very pretty and also having something to say. Not all of them are. Some of them are funny and just fun. Some of them are just are kind of. I think they're all try to have something to say. I think it doesn't always land necessarily. Yeah, but
all I'd say is if anybody out there is into Love, Death, and Robots, you would like the YouTube channel Dust. It's all they do is sci-fi shorts like that. Yep. I watch quite a few of those, so I'd highly recommend that channel if you like this kind of thing.
Agreed. Robot Chicken gets a nod here.
I didn't know that was still.
I didn't know that was still happening either. I was trying to see if This Is Us got a nomination. Have you seen This Is Us on Netflix?
No.
Not This Is Us.
That's the show that Jeremy likes.
Right. Sorry. Now You See Me. Which is this comedy sketch show, and I'll pull it up here.
It's a movie about magicians, right?
Oh crap! Yes. No. Yeah.
What's his name? Lex Luthor becomes a musician. I keep trying to say musician instead of magician.
Now You See Me is actually a movie I did see. It's a 2013 movie, and it stars quite a few
Jesse Eisenberg.
It's okay. It's got Jesse Eisenberg, Common, Mark Ruffalo, Woody Harrelson.
Oh, Mark.
What
are you doing there?
Dave Franco, and Isla Fisher and Morgan Freeman.
Michael Caine.
Keep
yeah.
Going. It's got a crazy cast, okay? The movie's ridiculous. It's really stupid, okay? I don't know if you've seen it. It's a series about music. It's two movies. It's a series of movies. I want to see the second one just to complete it. They're both on Netflix right now, and
this isn't my joke, but they should have called the next one "Now You Don't."
It's just called "Now You See Me."
Now You See Me 2.
Yeah, that's it.
Instead of "Now You Don't." Think about it.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you, but it blurs the line between this idea of like what a magician can actually do on stage and what like a movie magic can do, and it's like it's kind of bullshit. Like it's a lot of bullshit, is what I'm saying.
Well, it's just anything can be magic, right?
Yeah, okay, but Woody Harrelson's character is like I don't know what the hell they call it, like a hypnotist, like this essentially. But they really stretched the limits of his abilities. Like it's pretty. He basically has mind control powers. It's like it's nutty stuff. It's funny how over the top it is, but that's not what I wanted to get. That's not what I wanted to touch on.
I feel like this movie's not nominated for an Emmy.
It's not, and it came out in 2013. I got confused because what I wanted to say was I Think You Should Leave was the series I was looking for, which is a comedy sketch series. And there's a season 2 just came out on Netflix. I've just finished watching the first season, and it might be the funniest shit I've ever seen. It's up there. It's so clever in like their sketches are just so wild. The ideas are so smart, and they're like, it's brilliant. There's one they do a sketch with Will Forte, where he is on a plane, and he's decided he's going to sit next to this person and annoy the shit out of them for the entire flight because, as a baby, that person was annoying him as a baby. So he decided
on a plane.
Nice. So he's like he couldn't sleep because this fully grown adult as a baby was annoying him. Yeah. So he's waited his entire life
20
to
years
finally execute revenge on this person. And like that's just the conceit. That's just one of a billion. And then they're like, I think they're only like 20-minute episodes, but there's a bunch of skits in each one. The very first skit is so stupid but so funny. It's just a guy leaving a job interview at like a cafe, and he pulls the door the wrong way. Like, you know, you do like a push on a pull door.
I wouldn't know, but
and he said, oh, and he's like, so the guy at the guy sitting at the interview says, oh, you actually need to push, and he says, no, it goes both ways, and proceeds to try to pull the door off its hinges by pulling it the other way. And it's like it goes a little bit longer than it should. Like it does that thing where it's like it stretches it as far as it possibly can. You guys need to watch it because it is brilliant.
I don't remember what
comedy.
It's called.
It's not called Now You See Me. It's called
See You Later.
No, it's called I Think You Should Leave. I think you should leave.
I think you should leave.
I think you should leave. And there's a second season now. So that's my other thing that that I'm trying to sell you guys on. Just not really as much. Oh, here's another thing I watched, and I think much more maybe, Dan, up your alley, okay? It's called The Midnight Gospel. Have you seen this show?
Oh, yeah, Duncan Trussell. Hell yeah.
It's the craziest shit I've ever seen. It's, okay, so I've been saying this a lot about a lot of things. Like, I Think You Should Leave is the funniest shit I've ever seen. This show is, I think, from 2 years ago, actually, on Netflix. It's an animated show, and it is impossible to describe. So, Dan, you have to try to describe it.
It's sort of like, if anybody is familiar, the Duncan Trussell podcast, the Duncan Trussell Family Hour. It's like him sort of talking with a guest about like
existential ideas.
Yeah, about that and hallucinogenic experiences.
Sure.
Right, and the animation style is such that it comes off as like an acid trip, essentially.
Yeah. I think it's designed to be watched high. I think it's supposed to be watched high.
I'm sure it is. That's all Duncan Trussell does. That's why he's a hero. It's hard to describe the show outside
living
of
the
that.
dream, man.
It's just it's people having a conversation about these profound concepts that are, you know, hard to wrap your head around when you're sober, and then if you do take a couple uppers or whatever, or
downers,
whatever you like to do,
right?
It can be more exciting to watch these things.
It's pretty profound. The way I tried to describe it when I was watching it, I was like trying to tell people to watch it because I thought it was so good. Only one season, doesn't look like it's going to get another, but it's the framing of the show is this person who moves off of Earth into
other dimensions,
another dimension, essentially. But the way it's framed is that he's using a simulator. He's using a world simulator to experience these other worlds that make no sense.
He, in this case, being like a cartoon pixie elf gnome sort of character,
right? It's hard, exactly.
Yeah.
And so he goes into this computer essentially, and there's actually like a longer framed story around that. Like each individual episode's very much standalone, but there's like trappings around it or framing around it that extends beyond. But it really makes no sense. Like the actual what's happening on the screen is essentially nonsense. Like it is, Dan, like you said, like an acid trip. Like it'll be just stuff like a triangle will just morph into a thing that speaks and just starts talking.
It's not nonsense. It's never nonsense.
It's sometimes not. The stuff that's happening is sometimes nonsense.
It's things are morphing and changing, but they always maintain or like reassemble into a form, and they're always like part of something bigger than themselves. You know, like
sure.
It's. I mean, I feel like nonsense is the wrong word.
The visuals are mostly, I think, nonsense.
Chaotic, maybe.
Well, okay, nonsense in the sense that like they're not really like anything that you can imagine right now. Like it's just like it's not really fitting a mold of what you expect things to be like or shaped like or look like. You know,
depends on what you expect.
Just like it's just really weird, but like the conversations are interesting, they're fascinating. Mm-hmm. But so I think, which is funny though, is like so he's like, can I interview you for my space cast? Is like the way each episode starts. He just finds some random person on one of these random made up worlds and it says, can I interview for my space cast? Mm-hmm. And then this interview like from his podcast essentially starts playing, right? And they animate this interview, but sometimes it's funny because like the show has this established world, right, that it's trying to like fit itself into some degree, but it also doesn't really care about it because like in the middle of one of the interviews it'll be like, oh yeah, I went to LA and we did this thing in LA and we like whatever, and it's like they don't really address that or care to touch on that. But then they'll also insert, which is weird, things outside of the interview that make sense for what's happening on the screen, right? Like if someone trips and falls, if the character trips and falls, they'd be like, ow, you know. Right. But it's like it's like I said, impossible to describe, but the conversations that they have are fascinating. I really, really like the one on death. I thought that one was like, I think it might be the final episode. I thought that one was really cool.
I think I only watched the first episode.
Oh man, you got to watch the whole thing. There's so many good ones. You watched the one about the drug use then, because the first one is about they go to like a zombie apocalypse world.
Yeah, they do.
And it's pretty funny though because they all get turned into zombies and they're like, oh crap, this is actually pretty great. Like they're like, turns out all the zombies are just living this like amazing life and it's like beautiful and everything's amazing. But yeah, they're talking about like psychedelics and like no such thing as a bad drug. It's just how it interacts with you or whatever, stuff like that. And it's a fascinating. The conversations are really interesting. I would recommend partaking in some sort of substance while watching. That's my only recommendation for that show. I think it can't be enjoyed any other way, or at least it's not certainly designed to. I don't think. I can't say for sure. But so Dan, you need to watch that. Jeremy, I don't know if you're smoking a lot of weed these days.
Wait, you're saying you can't watch it sober?
I don't think you should.
I think you can, and you can definitely relate. I feel like I watched that first episode sober, but I can definitely see how it would be enhanced if you took some like shrooms or something ahead of time.
I think weed as on its own, the marijuana on its own is enough to enjoy that show. It's just so nutty.
We'll see. I say.
We'll see. And I watched. Let's see, what else did I watch? I watched all the Silence of the Lambs movies for the first time. Well, not all. I haven't seen Hannibal yet. So I watched Silence of the Lambs and Red Dragon, and
for the first
time in my entire life. And I found out, by the way, that there's another movie in that series with Anthony Hopkins called Hannibal that I have not seen. So I have to add that. I still have to see that. And then there's another one called Hannibal Rising that does not. It's like a prequel, and it's like a young Hannibal, and it doesn't have the same actors in it. I'm not as inclined necessarily to see that, but I will say I'm upset that it took me this long to, and I'm sure you guys are upset with me that it took me this long to watch these movies because they're pretty much perfect movies. Like Red Dragon has the most insane cast of actors, and they're all doing their best work, like some of their best work. certainly Anthony Hopkins certainly has a long history of doing good work, but Ed Norton, Ralph Fiennes, like just like, and I don't know, by the way, I don't think Red Dragon's necessarily a better movie. I don't think it is. It's certainly more of a modern movie, but the Silence of the Lambs is essentially a perfect movie. I don't know, like I don't think this is a bold statement. I'm certainly not injecting anything new, but like, when was the last time you guys watched this movie? These movies?
It's been, I would say, like a decade at least since I've watched either of them.
Silence of the Lambs won Best Picture, didn't it?
I believe it did.
Yeah, probably.
And
I don't know.
Or at least actor.
I understand why people are upset. Like, so you know how there's this like these people who really love these like what are they called, true crime stuff, right?
There's a lot of people out there that really love this kind of stuff.
People love true crime.
Yeah.
Like, love it. I don't like it personally. It's just like a little bit too much for me. Like, it's just like I really don't need to know about how this real life person was murdered. Like, I just like I don't need that in my life. It just and that's fine. I'm not, and like for those people who like it, that's fine too. But what
I don't know how fine it is, but whatever.
I don't know why it needs to. I don't know why it's this big, but I will say that I certainly have a different understanding of why they would be fascinated by these things coming out of watching these movies, because there is this element of like this psychological understanding of these broken people, right? These people that are not like us, right? Alien in a lot of ways, right?
Oof.
Or how someone who is like you could do. I like serial killers. I think it's fair to say that serial killers, Daniel, are broken people. I don't think that's a bold statement, but maybe if I'm wrong, feel free to tell me.
Oh, but the not like us, the different, the alien stuff.
But that's why. Okay, so
I understand these are extreme circumstances.
Sure,
and whatever,
but more importantly, what would drive someone to do these things, right? In the case of the Hannibal films, I mean, like these are people who are psychologically tortured in some ways, right? Especially Red Dragon.
Yeah.
But I can see why it's fascinating based on these movies, because
the psychological aspect of it, absolutely. The human drama aspect, absolutely. Like, I do agree largely though with true crime because it's based on true events. That's where like it's a sticking point for me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like the idea of like thinking about this kind of stuff happening in the real world. I know watching movies is tantamount to the same thing, and I think that's what you're doing largely when you're watching a movie. You're putting yourself in the character's shoes.
Right,
like,
they're empathy machines. They're designed for that. Yeah,
but there's just one added layer for me with true crime that turns me off personally.
It also feels like,
but
with true crime, just as a tangent, like it also feels exploitive, which I think is gross.
Exploitative, yeah, maybe. But I mean, a lot of people.
Did you correct my?
I tried to. I did correct you.
Yeah. Okay.
Exploitative. What was the correction?
Exploitative, Jeremy. It was
not exploitive. It's exploitative.
I said exploitive, which is apparently wrong.
We understood what you meant.
I thought people were getting it. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, whoever's copying down the transcript will prove me right.
That's computers now, Dave. Yeah. Computers do the transcripts.
We'll trust them.
So, Julie, you've never seen like Unsolved Mysteries or anything like that?
I don't. So, like, is that the show that was like on A&E that like started with a guy standing in front of I want to say in a courtroom with a TV on the witness stand? Are you guys following me here? Are you guys?
Jeremy, is this even close?
Does that sound familiar?
No, it's like this guy in like a trench coat, and like he's just standing around whatever location. He has like the craziest voice of all time, and he just kind of recounts the story or whatever as it unfolds. And they have actors to kind of
reenact,
fake the reenactments.
So no, Jeremy, and also as much as that sounds cool, and then they all end with, and this is a true unsolved story.
But
they're
that one
still
in particular,
out there.
like it's like there's a whole fandom for it, like just that character, that guy in particular, and the theme song. It's just the sense of just evil that lurks out there.
That's what's so scary about it, is that it's like it's real that's out there. You know, that shit. This happens. This could happen tomorrow. I don't know. I don't like thinking about it that way.
It's a series from 1987. Okay, and
So it starts with this guy. It's like the like Twilight Zone. Like imagine
Listen
if
to
you
his
will.
voice; it's just insane.
Robert Stack. Okay, so I'm going to Google Robert Stack here. Robert Stack.
We can
Like
probably do
top
this.
5 legendary voices.
Well, I just want to hear his voice. Best. Okay.
Straight unsolved.
Voice. Okay, or unsolved. You want to go from Robert Stack
There
Unsolved
you go.
Mysteries?
There
Okay,
you
here we go. Just a quick tease. I just want to
Casual.
taste.
Is this
Right.
going to play for the?
I don't think Jeremy's going to hear it.
audience as
Yeah,
well?
Jeremy. Yeah, the audience will hear it. Okay. No, I mean, so far nothing. I'm just hearing nothing.
Join me. Perhaps you may be able to help solve a mystery.
Okay, that's enough. I don't need to see anymore. Yes, I do recall this show, but no, I did not watch it. But ultimately, Jeremy, you're right. There's this sense of evil in the world that I just don't want to think about. So, which is why, I mean,
Well,
there's
I feel like I tend to enjoy it because I like trying to fit pieces together, just be that detective which I think everyone, that's why they're into it, right? They think,
right.
Yeah.
you know, they're thinking like a detective or whatever, trying to figure it out.
I guess that's a good point. Like that's another layer to it. When it's a work of fiction, it's somebody who literally knows all the pieces, is like telling you a story. Whereas
Right.
with this, you're kind of in the same boat as the detectives. You're trying to put the pieces together yourself because these are unsolved.
But they're also being told in a specific way to tell, like, you know what I mean? Like, you're not like on the scene.
Obviously, you're not, because
Right.
nobody's gonna put that kind of effort in. we want to solve this mystery for an hour.
Have you guys not
Right.
seen How to Make a Murder, like the Netflix
No,
series?
man.
No,
that, like,
Jeremy,
blew up?
absolutely
No,
not.
man.
Why would I ever watch that
It's
show?
unbelievable. Like, it's just so good. Like, you have no idea.
I still haven't
how
seen
good it is.
Tiger King either. I don't know.
You're never gonna watch Tiger King. Just
yeah.
admit you're never gonna watch it, because
Tiger King
I
is
know
unreal too. Like,
I'm
I
never
can't
gonna
believe
watch
that's
that
real.
show. I'm never gonna. I mean, like, so again,
How to Make a Murder is leaps and bounds beyond Tiger King for one. Yeah.
Is it? That's a
It
fiction
is the
or
quintessential
nonfiction?
murder mystery. You know, these trials like on wrongful conviction, 18 years in prison, then another murder that he's tied to, that like lawyers are trying to fight against. All these details that everyone can kind of intake and kind of tie together themselves. Like, it's just so crazy.
Didn't it also affect like the real world actual trial of some kind in some way? Like the actual like
It just
case
like
was
started
reopened or something
started
like
more
that?
of like a movement just to kind of look into it more. Like,
right
the document really convinced people that the guy was or
innocent.
is innocent, but I still think he is in jail or whatever.
Okay.
Um,
Crazy. Well, so again, maybe, but what's fascinating about Silence of the Lambs, again, just as coming back to that, was that the Hannibal character is this like larger than life character, right? He's like this gentleman serial killer, and like his insights, obviously Anthony Hopkins' performance, like everything about Hannibal as a character is like interesting to watch. You know what I mean? So I can understand why there was a whole show. I understand that the one that has what's his name, Le Chiffre, is the lead in it, is apparently very good.
Mads Mikkelsen.
Mads Mikkelsen, thank you. So I might watch that. I mean, it depends. I was really into. I was like, Hannibal, this is really cool. I want to see more, because I knew there was more. So
I mean, the show is, I would say, very good. You're not as great with like the gore side of things.
oh yeah, is it a little
And
gory?
the show, because it's like advances in
Right.
prosthetics and stuff like that, it's a bit more
It's a little bit
heavy
more-
on the gore.
Okay. Okay.
But the show I've only watched, I think, the first half of the first season. I don't know why I fell off of it, but it was really good.
Okay. Well, I'll have to give it a chance then, I guess, at some point. Hard to. I don't know where it's like. It needs to be easily accessible. Like, it needs to be like on Netflix or Disney Plus or one of those for me to be able
It's
to.
got to
get
be
in
on one of them.
there.
Probably
yeah,
Netflix.
maybe. Dan, did you watch The Tomorrow War on Amazon Prime?
I did.
You did?
what?
Is this, you want to talk about this?
Yeah, I do.
Jeremy, have you
Jesus.
watched this movie?
I'll never watch that movie. I don't
It's
think.
Chris Pratt.
Chris
What is he
Pratt.
doing here?
Chris Pratt as an action star. I think I heard someone mention this on another podcast I was listening to, and they're like, I think Chris Pratt thinks he's an action star, and I think his worst performances are when he's trying to be like a cool guy.
Yeah.
He's not a cool guy. I'm sorry, Chris Pratt.
Well,
he's not
he's
really.
I'm
pretty
sure
cool
he's
guy.
fine, but like, it didn't. His character's very one note in this movie, is what I'll say.
He's an ex-military history teacher or something like that in this. Yeah, I just want to touch on it super quick because I think it was a hit for Amazon Prime, and I watched it. It was like you couldn't avoid it. They were like really forcing it down your throat. Like it was like you couldn't go to Amazon Prime Video without seeing like 14 ads for that movie. I will say, it looks very good. I think it has like it has good production quality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So you, Daniel, as a sci-fi movie connoisseur,
I know.
this is like right up your alley. It's got all the things, right?
It feels like a very like commercialized version of the sci-fi genre, especially the time travel stuff.
My initial thoughts were that it felt like another movie made by an algorithm.
I honestly, yes. When I was watching, I felt like this was written by a robot.
Exactly.
Because it knows that I like other time travel movies.
Right.
The robot knows me, and this is what it came up with.
So here's the combination that I could come up with. It's Starship Troopers meets Terminator.
Yeah.
Meets there was another piece into it there, but those two for sure. And then like there's some other piece that I remember thinking of at the time that was like really
Star-Lord in Jurassic World.
Well, I guess so, but not really but like Starship Troopers really came through for me. There's this like
well,
I think
because of the draft and like
sure, but I think there's this idea, and like obviously they're fighting bugs.
And they just kept making those movies for TV or whatever, and they just kept getting worse.
I recently rewatched the first one, and it's
excellent.
It still holds up. But here's
excellent.
We talked about this before, but movie turns out is this whole commentary on jingoism, but went over my head completely when I was a kid. Like, did not even occur to me that like, hey, no, yeah, of course they hired a bunch of soap opera actors to play soldiers wearing Nazi uniforms. Yeah. Like, no shit. Like, but like, so this movie I think has a lot of those same qualities, but is missing the satire that Starship Troopers brought to it, which I think actually makes it the movie that it is. You know.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. They don't the sci-fi trappings are exactly that. They're only trappings. They don't really explore a lot of the emotional effects of what these characters are going through.
Also, does it make any sense?
Well, you kind of throw that out the window when you know you're going into
right.
a movie that includes time travel, and this applies to Loki too.
That's true.
None of it makes any goddamn sense when you try to.
But this movie tries to explain it. It does.
They both do in their own ways, and like,
right.
Personally, I guess for me, when I'm watching a movie like that, I'll be like, okay, I'll choose to buy your explanation because why not? Mm-hmm. For the most part, unless it's something really cartoonish.
I mean, I feel like it has that. This okay. Light spoilers for the Tomorrow War, but the conceit is that there's a war in the future, and that we're losing, and that in the way to fight against it is to bring soldiers from the past into the future. That like we need more soldiers, we don't have them. We need to go to the past to like load up the army. Does that as a conceit make any sense to you? Yeah,
it
works.
Sure.
That's enough. Like you're like, okay, I can.
They don't have enough soldiers in the future, so they go back for reinforcements.
Right.
They've exhausted their source for humans in the future. That does track for me.
Okay, fair enough. I give this 2 out of 5 stars on Letterboxd.
Ooh,
okay.
Woof.
I said it was an odd mashup between Starship Troopers, Aliens, and Terminator. So there's some aliensness in there, I think, a little bit, but I think also that Aliens and Starship Troopers are fairly similar, so it's like not that different. But
well, just in the sense that there's like a crazy monster that's unstoppable,
right? And like,
soldiers.
Well, it's like this, but it's like this There's like I think there's specific call out to Aliens. Like there's a
could be
there's later in the movie, specifically at the third act, has this like AVP feel to it, I think. Which also I think is a better movie than this movie, and that's saying a lot because Alien vs. Predator is not a good movie, but it's I think more entertaining than this one.
More cohesive. It at least makes sense to itself.
I said everything down to the casting choices feels very deliberate, but not in like, oh, this is well planned, but more in like, oh, I feel exploited and manipulated sort of way. Again, that idea of this made by algorithm scenario. It's just like, it's not great. It's not great, but it's vague. Like it's fun enough to watch. Like I think it's like turn your brain off, like popcorn flick. It's like sure.
It's one of those ones. Like I applaud their efforts. I encourage more companies to make movies like this. Mm-hmm. So nice try.
Next one, please. I guess like there's hints that there might be a sequel to this movie, which I don't know how there can be, like, again, not spoilers for the Tomorrow War, but like it certainly doesn't set up a sequel. We'll put it that way.
If you're dealing with time travel, anything is possible.
That's true. That's true. I suppose
You can write a
you
sequel
can always
out anywhere.
yeah, literally
Out
at
of
any moment.
when.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Okay, I think that's everything I wanted to touch on. There is a new Star Trek movie coming, and the cast, like the new Star Trek movie cast, is apparently coming back. So if you're a fan of Chris Pine and what he's doing, you may be into that. The Rock revealed a tease of what the costume for Black Adam looks like. It's really not that surprising or shocking. I don't think.
We know what he looks like.
Yeah. What else? There was a trailer for the What If series, the Marvel What If series, the animated one. Looks pretty cool. They kind of revealed a little bit more stuff. The Captain Britain stuff looks cool. It's just it's an opportunity for Marvel to get extra weird, So we'll see what that's like. But that's also later this year, my understanding, for Marvel. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, again, not our usual format. A little bit more, like we said off the top, loosey-goosey, right? And it is what it is, but...
Hey, theaters are opening up again. Things are coming back.
Yes.
We're nearing the tail end of this thing, hopefully.
We can actually review
Fingers
movies
crossed.
again.
Yeah.
That would be nice. So
I don't want to, jinx anything, but...
Well, yeah, no. I mean, the movies will be open. The theaters will be open for a couple weeks at least. I'm going to go see the new Fast and Furious. I think that's going to be my first movie back in theaters. I'm going to go this weekend. That should be fun. We can maybe talk about that. Haven't had a chance to. Because unlike the Marvel stuff, not available to stream. So
Anywhere.
No. So on purpose, intentionally.
Wow, they're taking a stand.
By the way, Black Widow did quite well for them. I want to say $80 million in revenue.
Do you know what the split was though between theaters and Premier Access?
I'm sure they have like here's the thing. The crazy thing is that just from the get-go is that they revealed the numbers at all because they did not have. We talk about this all the time. They're under no obligation to tell us any of this information, right? But they told us this was success. Essentially, they told us this was successful, which probably means we're going to be seeing this model, this blended model, continuing at least with Disney movies for some time. Maybe not necessarily with every movie. And like they didn't tell us how well Luca did or how well. By the way, I watched Luca movie. It's so good. It's so good, guys. Go watch Luca. They didn't tell us how good that did, or that Dalmatians movie. What's it called? Cruella. They didn't tell us how well Cruella did. So it's like, no, those ones probably didn't do very good, but this one did enough. So we'll probably see it again. Is that good? Is that a good thing? I think so. Probably more choice is good.
Yeah. I think it's like a lot of things that have come about as a necessity throughout this pandemic. Like they're just not going to go away because it's more convenient for people. Like there are some people, not all people, but some people out there that are preferring.
They don't like the movie
movies
theater
this way, and
yeah.
Why not? Why not add that?
Right.
Like you'll still have your movie crowds, and then you can add this revenue on top of that. I think that they'll still for most like blockbusters, like I feel like Black Widow probably would have qualified. It probably would have filled theaters if that were an option.
Yeah, I mean every Marvel movie does. Right.
So I mean, I don't see a reason for them not to have the Premier Access model also in place. I don't know how much it really deters from the people who really want to go to the theater.
It doesn't really, and ultimately the biggest difference. And I've heard them speaking about this the other day. I read this on a blog or Twitter or something, but it was that Disney ultimately gets to keep so much more of the revenue from Premier Access than they do from a theatrical release, right? So if you think, okay, $1 billion movie.
Well, less
right?
overhead too, right?
Right. Well, exactly. So there's just so much. Yeah, the infrastructure is already in place for that. So it's like let's say $1 billion movie. Not a reach with a Marvel film. Disney and Marvel probably get to keep, I think, 60% of that revenue, maybe 50%. And then the rest goes to theaters and distributors and whatnot. Whereas like with Disney Plus, I mean, they're probably keeping upwards of 90% or more of that revenue. So even if it's not like those same dollar figures, like because they get to keep such a larger amount, it kind of balances a little bit. So, and I think I didn't really even think about that when I was like considering what's successful and what's not. So we'll see. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but that $30 price tag is enough to be able to, for me to say I would rather just go see it at the theater. You know, if I'm gonna pay $30, unless I'm having 10 people over to watch it, you know, which is like, who has room for that? Like, I guess you don't even need that many. A family of 5 is probably worthwhile, right? Because going to the theater, I think, is expensive if you're a family. I would imagine, right? Popcorn, each ticket's $10.
They got those cups,
$20.
all these cups with the little figures on them instead of a straw.
Instead of a straw, isn't it also a straw?
No,
It's
I think you have to
attached to the straw. Sometimes it's just like a little indent that you snap it into on the lid.
Yeah, and there's
And
like
the head's always bigger than the body for some reason.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
There's
There's no craftsmanship anymore to these things.
You know, because you know what? Yeah, exactly. Back in my day, we got popcorn buckets with the poster imagery on it, and those were sweet because you could take them home and use them for your own popcorn.
I think they do that to the cups too.
Yeah, but you're not. What are you gonna do? Take home a movie theater cup?
People have cups. Yeah, people collect those cups.
I got like 7-Eleven cups from like different.
Yeah, I remember the 7-Eleven cups from like the prequel
Same
era,
thing, like holographic images. People collect cups.
I guess. I feel like the buckets for me were very useful. I remember distinctly having a Dark Knight bucket that was really cool. You guys disagree? They had handles on them.
I don't disagree.
It was like an ice cream pail.
Just don't want to eat buckets of popcorn just because I have a popcorn bucket.
You know, Jeremy, first of all, how dare you? Okay, I love popcorn. It's the movie treat. What else are you gonna eat, Jeremy? Come on. Candy.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Give me another fuzzy peach?
Sometimes I like salted nuts, like cashews.
During a movie?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a nice little snack.
I guess it's similar vein, like equally as crunchy.
Sometimes people get the nachos with the queso. You know, you always look over.
No.
I've never been that kind of guy myself.
You're gonna put a dip? You're gonna risk a dip in the dark? A dark dip? You can't dip in the dark. You can dip in dots, but you can't dip in the dark.
They do those in the future.
the ice cream of the future. I believe that's what that's called. Is it actually just ice cream in circle form? Really, all it is?
Yeah.
Do you think they'll have the liquor cart in the movie theater?
Oh, right.
Like that one
Paid
time?
$20 a wine glass. Daniel's bill.
It was also on my bill that time.
Hey, Dan, you get this round. We'll get you the next time. That was so crazy. I mean, she didn't know how to open the bottle.
Let's wrap this.
Yeah.
up.
Okay. All
Let's
right.
wrap this up. This is
Anywho,
no longer content.
yeah. I mean, it depends on what you're.
For some
who
people.
you ask. Yeah, it depends who you ask. Anyway, follow us on Twitter at Tower Babblecast, Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast. We'll be back with a film club this month. We're doing Driven, the 2001 Sly Stallone.
Get ready.
Is it fair to call it a classic? Would you call it a Sly classic?
Would you call it a Sylvester Stallone vehicle?
I'm gonna leave that up to you guys.
They call it a vehicle sometimes.
Yeah, right. That's true. Yeah, that's good actually, Dan. That's good work. That's some good.
Because they drive cars and cars are also.
That's some
vehicles.
good punmanship over there. Okay, that's good stuff. And then, like I said, the month after that is Face Off. And you can find us.
You've already decided the next month?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're just super ahead of the game every time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I leave for one movie club and you guys change all the rules.
Hey, man. Hey, someone's got to keep us honest, and you're not around. Anything goes. So, again, that's patreon.com/Tower Babblecast as well. It'd be huge if you guys help support the show. And we'll be back with more ToB very soon. We'll talk to you then.